Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast. Landmark show today. Dave may not be here. I don't know whether he's going to be here or not. What we did was because everybody enjoys the behind the scenes, so we changed we swapped this around because our guest today is going to be Andre Chaperon.
Oh, he is coming. His computer quit and it's rebooting.
Okay, well, good. So I won't bother finishing that story. We're recording on a weird day. We didn't think Dave would come. He's having computer trouble.
And we felt saved at least that we're doing shows about email, which Dave won't care about at all anyway.
Yeah, for you live viewers, it'll be back to back. I don't know if it's back to back weeks for people who aren't live. But
I hope so. That would be a nice bookend. That's like if you get overwhelmed by the first episode, then okay, well here's some nuts and bolts stuff, because the stuff with Andre I don't think should be nuts and bolts. Like, we've got Andre on, like, let's dig in, right? But there are nuts and bolts and fundamentals people need too.
Right. Yeah. Good sentence right there. So that's where we're going to be rolling. So I imagine Dave's going to pop in at any point. Do you have something cool?
I have a something cool, and I have a shout out to a previous something cool of yours.
Ooh, a shout out to my something cool.
Yeah, your something cool was the book Lexicon.
Oh, did you read it?
No, but I'm on chapter 3, and it's already my favorite book of the year. My favorite fiction book. Like, I'm like chapter 3, and I'm like, I'm just so sold. Like I mean, do you know what happens in chapter 3? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember.
It's basically, it's kind of the hook, right? You got one chapter from perspective A and the second chapter from perspective B, and then it goes back to perspective A, and you're basically like, hey, guess what? Words are the most dangerous thing in the universe, fuckers. and I'm just so intrigued. Like, I want to know more about
this. They start talking about the poets and stuff.
Yeah. And I love the term poet. Like, I already know it's awesome. I already know that I'm just sold on the language in the book and whatever. I don't know what it's about, but I know I'm super interested. And I haven't even read like a project description. I just went in cold because you said, read this, you're welcome. And so I just publicly acknowledge was a great recommendation. I'm loving the hell out of it. My other something cool is the show Big Little Lies on HBO, which is awesome. Dude, I apologize ahead of time, but at some point this is going to become required viewing for you because I have a feeling we're going to be stealing a lot from this show. Like, I love so much about the way they're telling a story. It's David Kelly. Do you know David Kelly? He was like...
yes, but I can't put my finger on what he's done. But yeah, I do.
Ally McBeal and The Practice, so a bunch of stuff a while back. But this is like it's everything that's great about HBO. And it's got Reese Witherspoon and Nicole Kidman and Shailene Woodley and Alexander Skarsgård, who is just like a behemoth of a man. And it's a really, really great show. It takes place in Monterey, and it's a murder mystery. And there's 3 different, they do a lot with narrative and cuts, but the main story, it takes place in like the present tense. And there's just a lot of sniping between these moms, but where like normal PTA moms throw around, like, I'm on the board of like so-and-so, like Laura Dern, who is on Renata, she's Renata in the show. She says, I'm on the board of PayPal. Like, it's just that they're like, everybody has a really big swinging dick, and they're like, look how big it is. And somebody gets killed. And so, and that's not a spoiler. You find that out in the first episode. But the narrative is that present tense stuff, and you don't know who ends up dead at the end at all. There's that, and then like a police report that's being done, and then interviews with all these different witnesses. And you really, I'm like, we're 4 episodes in, and I still don't quite know what's going on, but it's got this great boil to it. And it reminds me in many ways of the thing that Johnny and I are about to start writing in a couple of weeks, because it does the same thing with those different narrative tracks. And it's just, it's inspiring to watch and see how well it's all coming together. And anyway, Big Little Lies, if you have HBO, it's fantastic.
Okay. I'm a little distracted because I have my something cool, but it's not it's not quite ready, which doesn't really matter because it's only going to matter to live viewers, and there's only a few of you. So, but anyway, what it is we had, if you guys were at the Smarter Artist Summit earlier this year, there were people shooting video, and so we finally got the highlight video back, that shows it's a highlight video. I mean, you'll see it, but it's really cool. It kind of gave us all chills. We were sharing it around yesterday, but it's not live. I thought it was. The page that it was on needed some tweaking and it needed to be taken down. So for you live viewers, you can't, it's not there right now. But for those of you who, like, basically anybody else, or tomorrow, you know what I mean? And we'll email about it eventually. So live viewers, this will be around tomorrow, but anybody who's listening, non-live can go there basically right now. So it's at sterlingandstone.net/summit 2018, and watch it's like a 2-minute video or something that just, I don't know, just kind of like if you were there or if you are thinking about going there, it just really encapsulates kind of what the summit was all about. And
yeah, it gave us all the feels. It was really awesome. Made
me proud of everything we do. My favorite part was that in the early draft, before we identified him, Calvin is in, he's like giving a testimonial about the summit, but he also spoke at it, and they've got him in like his hunting vest carrying a bat covered in barbed wire, and there was no explanation as to who the hell this guy was, and he's giving a very heartfelt testimonial while holding a bat covered in barbed wire. And I could just imagine people being like, what? Why is nobody pointing out that this man has a bat covered in barbed wire? But then he added Calvin Ginieri and speaker on his topic and stuff. But anyway, so that's something you guys can check out. It's really super cool. And also get your ticket while you're there, because the price hike isn't that far away, because it's going to go up, and that's in February of 2018. So sterlingandstone.net/summit 2018. You were leaning forward like you were going to say something.
Well, no, I think Andre is here.
He's hiding because
yes, there he is. Hey, Andre, do you have something cool that you want to share with this week? Oh, you have a very pretty skylight.
I was just going to say, is that The Rock in the background? Not Dwayne Johnson.
No, The Rock's that side, other side. That's Spain. That's Spain behind me.
Oh wow, that's beautiful.
Spain out my window.
I want The Rock outside my window, and I do mean Dwayne Johnson.
That too.
Welcome, Andre.
Well, thanks for having me.
Dave is coming. We hear his computer is rebooting and not finding his camera, and he's having
rebooting, but rebuting.
My marbles in my mouth. So he'll be here, but fortunately, he cares very little about email anyway. So it doesn't really matter when he gets here. But you are an email wizard, so we're very lucky to have you here talking to us.
Well, yes. Thank you.
Yes, it's great to have Andre here. Just briefly, I know a lot of you have heard this story, but it bears repeating because it's kind of self-publishing podcast and Sterling and Stone lore, and I find it amusing. And and Andre, I'm sure, has heard this a few times. But Sean and I, when we first met in person, it was at Blog World 2012 or something like that in New York. And people who are circulating around talk to each other. And
it's 2011.
Yeah, we kind of like, oh, I know you, I kind of know you, and you go to lunch and stuff. And so we went out to lunch, and the thing that we started talking about, Sean and I, was, boy, have you heard about autoresponder madness? And so we say that was like our song, right? Like, and then there was really cool. And then we kind of learned, we both got into autoresponder madness. It was super cool. And then we just had buckets of praise for Andre. And then I don't know if this has ever happened to you, Andre, if you've ever heard this from other people or if we're the only people who tell this story, but you got a genuine fanboy reaction when Sean was like, somebody's just emailing me, they're with Andre. And
yeah, it's because it was Laura Lee Clark, and I had met her through Danny, and she said, hey, I'm sitting right next to Andre right now. Do you want an intro? I said, I totally want an intro. That's fantastic. So yeah, it was the first person online that I met that I had tremendous respect for before I knew them, before I met them. And I got to meet you with so much admiration of what you do and how you do it. Because for anyone listening who doesn't know Andre, hasn't had the benefit of going through autoresponder madness. Andre just captured me immediately because this was at a time when I was still working with Lori, and I was going to a lot of mastermind type things. And there was this real push to basically build a list as big as you can and then rape it as fast as possible. Like that was pretty much
That's the name of the book she was writing.
And it was just devastating to watch. I had a really hard time sitting there and just seeing that it was about, it was churn and burn, and people didn't really care about cultivating relationships with their lists. And that was just heartbreaking to watch over and over and over. And Andre's whole approach was, you don't need a big list. You could do amazing things with a small list if you're like a decent human being with a good product to sell, and you educate or entertain or whatever. And his whole approach was all about storytelling and open loops. And he was comparing, writing emails to serial fiction. And I'm like, oh, I just love everything about this. And I will say that the one time I diligently followed every single thing that Andre teaches in ARM, and it was a 30-day how to be a better writer course with like a 7-day follow-up period. And the open rate on that was like 97% with 0 drop off. Like I've never seen numbers when you actually apply exactly what he says. They're just fantastic. So to my mind, Andre is the best in the business when it comes to email and just communicating with your customers in that way, because there's so much integrity behind it, and storytelling as a narrative commercial hooking device is just beautiful. So anyway, I'll turn most of this over to Johnny today to get these nuts and bolts, but I'm so glad you're here, Andre. I think this is really special for our audience.
Well, no worries. Hey, Dave.
Hello. This is such a love fest. I didn't want to interrupt the whole origin story.
Yeah, Dave's really disappointed that he hopped in. He likes Andre.
I don't even need to be here. I'm probably not going to say 5 words today.
Well, that's what we thought. We thought if Dave doesn't show up, it'd be the perfect show.
Dude, see, and here's the thing. I actually think that you are the most valuable person on this call because... Yes, because
I'm having the same reaction, Dave. Wait until Sean talks about you're going to learn how to do all this stuff.
No, I don't think he's going to learn how to do this because he's Dave. And here's the thing: he has a team. He has
Andre's
us.
never met a Dave.
Dave does not have to get into active campaign and do any of this. But Dave, I think, is an avatar for so many of our listeners who don't want to send emails to their readers. They don't want to do any of this. And so Dave's resistance.
I like communicating with readers. I get self-conscious, and I also don't want to do it every week. I feel like that's too much. So
well, I think it's not too much or not enough. It's what's right for you and your audience. And I think that is unique to every audience and author. And
if your audience files a restraining order against you, does that mean you should tone it down a little, Andre?
Oh, Andre Chaperon's here. I thought it was just me and Sean and going on and on. Okay, so point taken, but Andre, maybe that's a good point. So I know the answer to this question, but in the spirit of leading in an interview, can you tell us what attracted you to autoresponders in the first place in light of Dave's question of like, I don't know, I'm a little embarrassed about what to say or self-conscious. I know you have a story there.
Well, I'm a shy introvert, so out of all the different things I was trying way back when, the one thing that allowed a shy introvert to communicate with a bunch of people was email, and it was awesome. So it was kind of like I just fell in love with it straight away, and I was crap at it. I wasn't really good at it. So, just like you guys teach with your writing stuff, the more you do it, the better you get. And then I just added storytelling to it, to the mix. And that's pretty much it.
Well, let's get to the story.
I want to interrupt real quick since I'm here.
Yes, no, this is great.
I just want to say I find it funny that this guy with like almost a Sean Connery sexy voice is a shy introvert. He should be talking all the time. Not Sean.
No, I have a donkey laugh. I should never talk.
Go ahead, John.
Sean Connery. That's funny.
So, I mean, I want to get to the whole storytelling and all that stuff, but do you mind doing I know a lot of people, we're guilty of just assuming that people kind of, know where we are and can meet us at a certain level. But a lot of people like autoresponders, like I've heard the word, I don't really understand what the hell it is or how they work. Can you give us a basic rundown on that first?
Yeah, so there's typically two ways that you could send out emails. One is to manually write an email, stick it in the system, and click the send button, and it'll go out to a group of people that you've selected. So it's a very manual process. So autoresponders is basically that, but automated. So you'll pre-write a whole bunch of emails, and you'll stick them into the system and say, on day 1, this email goes out. Day 2, this next email goes out. And day 5, this third email goes out. And then they basically just go out automatically. So there's all sorts of amazing automation and leverage built into that, which is why I loved it. So I've never been a big person that's into broadcasting, because I just feel it's a waste. You spend all that time to write an email, then you click send and it's gone and it's never to be used again. Whereas autoresponders is
like
kind
blogging.
Yeah. Whereas autoresponders is the most amazing thing ever. It's just this most, people receiving it think that they getting those emails live from you. They don't really know that it's set up in the system. So you've pre-written them, and you can pre-write them in a way that it seems like they real live emails.
So when we first started reading your stuff, it was nonfiction based. It was selling products and education, that sort of thing. But we're going to talk at least some today about fiction. But before we go there, why do you feel that it's such a good tool for selling specifically?
Well, I mean, one of your biggest constraints, I'm presuming, is your ability to write books and get books out fast enough for your audience to consume, right? So, email is just that channel where you can be in front of your guys while you writing books and while you're doing other stuff. It's that stuff in between that that like glue where you can create those relationships with your audience. So then when you do finally release whatever, these people are anticipating and looking forward to it.
But why not just send one big email, Andre? Why break it up into a bunch of, I'm scratching my why break it up into a bunch of things and deliver it over time?
It all comes down to being relevant, right? And when somebody comes onto your list, so if they opt in on your website, there's all sorts of reasons why they may have opted in. They may be, listened to one of your podcasts, enjoyed them, went to your site and joined your list, right? But there's just so many different things that people are into. So when you start to do the segmentation, you get to understand and figure out what people are wanting from you. And then you get to specifically trigger different email sequences that are specifically for the needs of for them. So if they are interested in a certain genre, type of book that you're into or you're writing or whatever, you can send out emails, but completely automated. So they will self-select their way within your system. And basically you can, using automation, get to send the most relevant emails to the most relevant people, so the right email to the right person at the right time.
Can you talk a little bit about the concept of the soap opera sequence that you described?
So soap opera sequence is basically Game of Thrones via email, right? So it's just a series of emails all linked together. There's a story arc that may run across them. I normally theme mine, so X amount of emails will be a certain theme, and they'll go out sequentially. And it'll basically there's open loops and cliffhangers at the end of every email, so that gets people to anticipate the next email.
So if you look at like an episode of TV, Game of Thrones is a great example. Even though you can watch one episode and it's a full story for sure, it's a beginning and a middle and an end. Right. 100% of the episodes have things that are not resolved. Yeah. So all of the episodes do a job of answering a question and then asking some new ones. And that's what all the emails in Andre's soap opera sequences do. They will answer questions that were raised in a previous email and then ask new ones. So the PS on an email is no different than that last 20 seconds of the episode where you see, somebody floating in a bathtub and you don't know who it is, right? And And that's next episode. You get to find that next email. And so those PSs can be just ridiculously effective. And, I mean, it's funny on a really well-written autoresponder. If you say in 2 days, I'm going to tell you this thing, and then 2 days later, the email doesn't go out. It doesn't go out for 3 days. You will have people sending you email saying, "Where's my email?" Which is hilarious considering you're sending them a marketing message, and they're raising their hand and they're saying, "Please send me more marketing messages." So that's kind of amazing.
And it's good to do that. It's good to tease people like that. And the PS section of the email is probably the most valuable real estate from our experience. People love to scroll down to the bottom and read those little PS messages. So you can put some cool stuff inside there.
I just have a quick aside question before that, I hand it back to Johnny. But what about last chance emails? Because we found over and over and over that as much as we hate sending last chance emails, they work 100% of the time. Like they're just always, whether we're sending.
The more last chance they are, the more effective they are.
Yeah,
it's really, really, really the last chance.
Yeah, and I mean it. Like I remember maybe a year ago we were having this whole back and forth because Dave hates the idea of a last chance email. He hates it.
Yeah, okay, we told them last week the book's on sale till Friday. If they don't get it by Friday, well, I'm not going to be the one reminding them. If they didn't get it, they obviously didn't want it.
Right.
But that's not true.
But that's not true. So
humans are flawed.
Yes. So we did a whole campaign for a book, and obviously a book, and it had whatever the first 4 days of okay sales. So then we did a last chance email, and we sold more on that email than the whole entire launch combined. I think by like 3 times. It was the most effective CI email we had sent in a long, long time, and it was the last chance. And we just did a campaign last week for Smarter Artists. Same thing. It was like half of the money came in on a last chance email, and that is because they work.
Well, to clarify, there were 2 emails on the last day. All the money came in on the second one. So the one that came out in the morning of the last day didn't generate much attention. It was that last one, like, oh, I'll do it later.
The one that Dave really hates. The one that Dave hates the most is the most effective. But that's why it's worth talking about a little bit, because I don't even think Dave is abnormal within the company. I hate the last chance email. I hate the last. Do you think it's worth telling the origin story of that email, Johnny?
Well, it doesn't have a lot to do with autoresponders, but you can.
You know what? We'll save that for the next email episode. Actually.
So going by your logic, then you guys sent 2 on Saturday. If you sent a 3rd or 4th one, you might have made like $1 million.
Right.
If the next one, we're considering an automated system that sends one out every 5 minutes. And the only way to get them to stop is to buy the thing.
People are procrastinators, and they're always going to wait for the last minute. Do you remember what your subject line was for that second email?
Of course. That's the whole story. Yeah.
Did you guys mess something up? Is that why you had to send 2?
No, because I hate bullshit like that.
No, it's not. It wasn't a lie, which is what you said.
No, I mean, I know you guys I know people lie all the time. Oh yeah, mistake.
No.
With us, it's very likely.
No, here I'll drop the subject line, and then I'll leave it as an open loop to tell the story in the next episode. Because there is a good story here. The subject line is, this is the email I would have sent to my mother. Although I think this is the email Sean's mom would need, or something like that. But it's a variation on my mother, and there's a specific story, and it really is my mother. And anyway, yeah, we'll tell that story next episode. But that's a really, really effective email, and it's a really effective subject line.
All right, so let's get back to the. I mean, okay, so if I could just kind of summarize. I mean, I think that the reason that you want to have, I'll tell this as well. So number one, you want to have an autoresponder series to kind of keep a relationship going. It's like Andre said, it's evergreen. You don't have to I sent a really good broadcast email, 6 months ago, and you joined today, and I can't send that email again. Like it lets the person get it in turn. But an analogy, and I don't know if we got this from you or somebody else, was it gets you up to speed. So and Sean's analogy is usually like, okay, you've just watched the first season of Lost, and you're on that. We need to update that, right?
Previously.
Boss has been out for a while. You've just watched the first season of Game of Thrones.
Now it's
Ozark.
Westworld.
Ozark.
Yeah, Ozark. And then somebody comes in and they're like, what is it? They've never seen anything. What is this show? And then a commercial hits. If you're, boy, the whole analogy is dated. Commercials. And, you pause it. And, okay, let me just tell you, and you spend 5 minutes. Okay, let me tell you this person, this person, this person. Okay, I'm up to speed. And that an autoresponder, part of its job is to kind of get people up to speed with kind of who you are, what you've done, what your credentials are, and it's over time so that they have kind of a chance to absorb it rather than just being hit in the face with it all at once. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, exactly. What I actually do is when somebody first joins a certain list of mine, I'll tag them with a certain tag, and then I'll remove that tag after a certain point in the sequence. So, for example, if it's 2 weeks in, I'll then remove that tag, or I'll make another tag. And while they have that tag, they can't get promoted to, or they can't receive any other broadcasts. They're kind of basically muted to all other communication other than that sequence. And that sequence just gets them into my world.
Okay, Andre, if somebody joins your list and you have like a big launch going on, are you afraid that this person is going to miss that big launch, or are you patient and just figure, okay, well, I'll get them next time? Do you ever want to accelerate that time span between when someone is introduced into your sphere and to when they actually enter your current funnels?
If I'm doing a promotion and there's obviously people that are just joining my list at that point in time, then they won't get it. They'll
Excellent.
have their chance when they get their chance and when they know who I am and all the other stuff. I mean,
so you're never in a hurry. You're always playing a longer game.
right. Yeah.
Excellent.
So we were talking about storytelling and open loops. Can you describe to people how you began? Like, what's a good maybe number of emails as a general rule of thumb, and then how you write them is actually what I really want to get into here, because you aren't just sitting down and I'm going to write email 1, close it, be done with it. I'm going to write email 2. Like, you write them together, right?
Well, the thing is, I sell the course mainly to internet marketers, as you know, and they aren't writers. The good ones. And they aren't writers. So for them...
Yeah, evil marketers don't want to do autoresponder madness. It's way too much work.
It's seriously, it's too much work for them. They just want the templates.
Yeah.
So they'll buy somebody else's course that comes with all the templates. But for you guys who are writers, you can knock out emails all day long, right? So, I'll tell.
Well, yes and no, though. But that's the hard part. It's for me, it's a fundamentally different kind of writing. I'll actually spend longer on a short email than I will on a long chapter of fiction. It's something. There's something so specific about it. It's almost like poetry or like formula. It's really, really exacting. Where fiction is more loping. I can just kind of go, and then I know I'll go clean that up later. And fiction, I may have 3 passes at, but a piece of copy might have 10, just because you're really sanding it down. So there's that, but there's also, I think, for writers, not necessarily knowing what to say or why to say it, where if you have a copywriting background, you can think of those hooks a little faster. But for just like a regular writer who's they know they have to communicate with their list, they know that an autoresponder is a smart thing to get into place, but they don't really know what to say, or to Dave's point, how often to say it. And I think that Dave pushes back with weekly, which, he should if that's not what's comfortable for him. Although now we're moving into frequent enough releases where that makes sense. I think the key is to find something that works for you and then be consistent. Would you agree with that it's consistency more than frequency that matters?
Yes, consistency is the key. And I've always found that when I write the emails, I'll batch them out, because the hardest thing is to start, right? So if you've started and you've got that momentum, well, you may as well just, if you can, hammer out a whole bunch of emails, because then you're in that moment and you can sequence them all out in terms of a story. So
that's actually what I'm getting at, Andre. Can you describe like literally how you write them, like your method of what you do on the screen and stuff?
I used to actually just open up Notepad, which is on Windows, but I use a Mac, so text edit, and I'll open up a whole bunch of text edits on my screen, and I'll just start writing in the first one, and then it'll kind of like flow over to the second one. And if I get an idea, because those ideas typically happen while I'm writing, I don't have all the ideas right from the very start before I write the first word. It kind of like just happens while I'm writing. So then if the idea is too advanced, I'll just take a little piece out, stick it into email number 4 in that blank thing, and I'll just carry on writing. And then eventually it'll kind of take shape. And then I can cut and paste pieces, and so I can create open loops. But now I actually just use Ulysses. So I'll write the emails separately in full screen mode, so there's no distractions. All I've got is the text in front of me, and then I'll write them sequentially like that. But I always used to write them side by side across the whole screen. I've always found that was easier, certainly in the beginning.
Yeah, that method that I totally got from you is one of my favorite things I've ever learned. It was so simple, and I used to outline emails that way. But then, because this was before I was writing fiction, this was at the very end of my copywriting time. And so when I started writing fiction, and then especially when I started scaling fiction and figuring out ways to kind of systematize it, that turned into kind of a beat structure where, I know I need to say this thing later down here, and I'll fill in the blanks later. And so I love it. And it's a malleable way of writing. It works for nonfiction. It works for emails. But if you're already a fiction author who outlines their work, then it's really transferable. Just don't think of writing single emails. Think of writing, like you would never write a chapter and then send that out to the world. You think of your story in terms of chapters. So think of your emails as chapters of the story you're trying to tell your reader.
Yeah, and then to loop back to what Johnny asked just now, how many emails is enough? Well, I think 7 emails is better than 3 emails, and 14 emails across 2 weeks is better than 7 emails. So the more the better, really. Yeah.
And you're not sending, the thing about tagging, just to put a finer point on that, you're not sending broadcasts to the people who are still in the welcome sequence. Yes or no?
No, so they'll get muted out from all other communication. And typically, even when I send broadcast emails, I very rarely send it out to everybody. If I ever do that, it's just typically 1 or 2 emails, and then it's basically just asking people to raise their hand if they're interested in whatever, and then that will then segment them out, and then I'll only communicate to that cohort of people that have raised their hand and said, yes, I want to hear about whatever that thing is.
On that note, can you talk just a little bit about re-engagement sequences? You just ran one not too long ago because I clicked on it and it was really good. So like what is a re-engagement sequence? What's the purpose of a re-engagement sequence? And like, what's a good example of a re-engagement sequence?
The one that you probably clicked on was because I was moving between ESPs. So I was just actually wanted to get people to raise their hand and say, yes, I still want to hear from you. And then I was going to delete everybody else. But yeah, re-engagement is just at some point, if that period between you communicating is too long, sometimes it can become stale, or sometimes if you say too much, people kind of just filter you out. And then they don't hear from you for a certain period of time, or they've created some filter in their machine, in a system to auto-filter you. So re-engagement thing is just basically getting them back on your side, setting out a few emails to say, hey, if you're still interested in hearing from me, I've noticed that you've not clicked on the last, on any emails in the last month. So I just want to make sure before I delete you that you still want to hear from me. And then typically, just like the last chance email, everybody raises their hand. Oh, yes, I still want to hear from you. I've just been busy. So then they'll click the link, and then you've got their attention again. I
like to send one that says, I will not be ignored.
Well, okay, so there are a few things that I really like about this. In the particular re-engagement sequence that we're talking about right now, I have to imagine that's really effective. Why it worked for me, Andre's just totally honest. Like, look, I'm moving you from one list to another. You either want to hear from me or you don't. And so he's giving me a why. Like, I know exactly why. Oh, it's because he's changing his email marketing software. and I'm going to be over here. And he's basically asking me if there's a chance that I'm going to buy something in the future, then I should be on that other list. So I'm raising my hand. And that's perfect. That's exactly what you want to do with your reader. And the other side of that is to not be afraid to lose the people who don't raise their hand. And I think that there's this huge scarcity, not just with authors, I think with people who have lists. Oh no, I can't lose people off my list. And so, but I mean, we both know people, we all know people with like 250,000 or more lists that have like just 0% open rates. What's the point of having that list? If you have 1,000 people on a list where 700 open it, okay, you're in good shape. And so not being afraid of, trimming your list and engaging them, re-engaging them, saying no to the people who are just taking up space and, weakening the resolve of your list, I think is a good thing.
Well, we could hit the topic of email in a bunch of less scattershot ways, but I want to hone this in some. So when we met Andre and went through Autoresponder Madness, it was as mentioned, for internet marketing types, and so it's nonfiction based. But we've talked about how could we adapt this for fiction. So our audience is a lot of them are fiction authors, and so for a fiction author who's not looking to do a lot of really complicated stuff, say, but they want maximum engagement and all the benefit of an autoresponder, what are some of the takeaways in terms of how we can adapt this approach, basically?
I think there's a load of things that can happen that you could do. One of the ones that I like the most is just using email to drip out short stories. So stories that would never ever be published on Amazon or anywhere. It's exclusive. The only way to get that story is opt-in, and we'll send it to you every day over a period of time.
Story told in an autoresponder.
Yes, a story told by email. So just like, every Sunday you guys are going to tune in to watch Game of Thrones, it's the same sort of thing. You getting that little episode via an email, 500 words, 1,000 words or whatever, each day or every 3 days or, however. And you can preload all that whole short story in there. So if the short story is 5,000 words, that can be 10 emails, right? And
getting people used to paying attention to you, spreading it out over time, so they're
and then they're actually getting engaged and seeing the type of stories that you're putting out, and if they really enjoy a certain short story that has a certain character that obviously belongs in one of your bigger books, there's going to be that connection, and then they're going to want to consume.
Yeah, I don't want to gloss over that too quickly, because that's really, really important. So if let's say you hate the idea of sending a bunch of emails because you're a timid writer and you feel like you're bothering people. What a great way to do it. This person just opted in and they said, I like your writing enough to go on your list, right? So then you send them a short story over 10 days, just a little bit at a time. Okay, well now they've spent 2 weeks with you, and a lot of this is about training. Just how do you stand out among all the other authors out there? Well, they just seen your name 10 times in a row and opened 10 of your emails and bonded with your story over a period of 10 days. So they didn't just because our culture right now is all about gobbling things up as fast as we can, right? I started Big Little Lies, a few days ago. I'll be done with it in 2 more days. there is no like gestation and waiting period anymore. We gobble through everything. If you're one of the authors who takes 10 days and you tell this story, and by the 10th day they love that story and it was really satisfying, you built that relationship, and now they remember your name when it hits a subject line a lot more than they would have otherwise.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing with email. You get to slow down that conversation, because you can drip things out and you can tease people, and you can earn attention by doing that. And if you do it well, it really hooks people in, and they want to just consume everything you put out. I'm a big Lee Child fan, and Lee only writes 1 book a year, so there's 11 months to wait for the next one. So what he's been doing is he writes short stories about Jack Reacher. Part of his backstory. That will never be a full book, but it's just filling in the gaps. So he's been releasing those little short stories, and again, I'll buy them and I consume them in a day. But it'll be so much cooler if that was by email and that got dripped out over a month, because now I'm not waiting 11 months for the next big book, because I'm getting all these little stories dripped out over the course of the year. So I think email is so much better in so many ways for certain things.
Now, I have a question in relation to that. A lot of authors use either a short story or a book from their catalog, or maybe one removed from their catalog, as a reader magnet. How do you attract somebody? I mean, to me, it doesn't seem as sexy. Sign up to my mailing list and get a story parsed out over 10 or 12.
No, you don't. It's Lagniappe, dude. It's extra.
Okay.
You sign up for one thing, but then you're over delivering. You're like, hey,
I got you.
Here's this little extra story. If you don't like it, I mean, here's what I would do. If you don't like it, don't read it. But then you just make sure that the first episode, like 500 words, is so good with such a compelling hook, they're going to read the next one. And that's your job as the author, to make sure they open all 10.
So we're doing a big launch, or I don't know if it's a big, we're doing a proper launch.
Proper, that's the word, Dave, proper.
For a series that we're doing, we've been working on since last summer, I think. It's called No Justice. It's coming out in September. And I wanted to do a good email, so I got with Sean and Tammy and was asking them, okay, what should I do? And Tammy said, she likes to do a cover reveal first, but we're actually redoing the cover, so I couldn't do that. So she's like, well, why don't you find like the best section from the book where you can tease people? So I took like 700 words or something, and I put it in an email of it's in the beginning, not the first chapter, like chapter 5, where the person realizes her child's been kidnapped, and I sent it out, and I got quite a few emails like, what the hell, man, now I gotta wait, like people are excited, and I was like, oh wow, that's awesome.
It's the open loops are so powerful. Our brain wants the answers to the questions that have been posed, and so that it's really, I mean, we know this as storytellers, we know this. Why wouldn't it work in email? Of course it's going to work in email. If Victoria's Secret had balls, that's the kind of marketing email they would send me. Wait till you see them.
By definition, Victoria's Secret doesn't.
Or anyone. I would love a corporate marketing email that came to me that said, wait till you see what we send you tomorrow. Because that would work, but they don't. It's very homogenized.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'd certainly do. In fact, this is what I will do when I start to write more fiction, is from the website. So on the website would be the first part of the short story. So it'll be there on the website. They get to read it there and then. There's no commitment from them. They don't have to opt in. So they consume that whole first piece, and it hooks them in. And then there's like, well, the rest of this, I'm going to send you in the privacy of your inbox if you want to get the rest of the story. And then that's how you can drip out that next part of the short story or via email. So you've hooked them on, in from the website first. So those people that are coming in now, you haven't tricked them to get onto your list. They haven't just opted in and now they're receiving the short story. They know exactly what they're getting. There's that expectation. And then obviously at the end of that story, you can fire them off to Amazon to get the full version or the novella or whatever.
So I have a question. We, Sean and I have a little debate here that we have regularly. For a fiction author, and I think it's going to be different depending on how often you release. So for a fiction author that might release 2 or 3 times a year, I would think that you probably wouldn't want to email every week. That would be a lot. And my take was, well, for that, you should have 2 different lists. You should have one for people that just say, I want the book. I only want to know when you're coming out with a book. I don't want all the conversation. Or I want the conversation and the book alerts. Because I feel like some people don't want any part of that. And when you are sending out a lot of releases and you don't have a lot of emails and you don't have the releases to back it up, you might I don't know if you'll bore them, but they'll be like, just get annoyed with you and then you'll miss out on a sale because they want your books. They just don't want all the conversation. Not everybody wants a conversation. What's your thought on that?
I think you'll be surprised, and I think most people would want to hear from you and not just get the notifications. But what you could do is maybe in in the PS or the main emails, you can say, PS, if you're sick and tired of hearing these emails, and you just want to get moved across to our notification only list, then click this link and you'll only ever get the notifications. Then you can measure it, right? Then you can just see how many people click that link, and then they get segmented out, and then they'll never ever get anything other than those notifications. You'll probably find that list is pretty small.
Yeah, my take on that is that even people who say that, then I think it's your job as the author to make it valuable, to not give them a reason to want to leave. Make sure that you're not sending stupid emails, that they're interesting and that they're really worth reading. I think that's the key. And Dave's right. Every week, if you have 3 book releases a year, that's too much. You have to figure out what your right rhythm is. For our level of releases, the problem with us is that we either had to do it every week because we were supposed to do releases, but then didn't actually do releases. So we had weird messaging, or we would just email and then not email for 3 months and then throw another email in. And that kind of inconsistency is just, I think, death to a list.
And but Sean's pushback on the notification is that people will forget you after a period of time, and that email list itself is kind of worthless because they'll just become blind to your emails.
I stand by that. If you've got if you're going to send 3 emails a year because that's the only releases that you have, or for some authors even less than that, you're just another name in their subject line. You're lucky if Gmail doesn't put you in spam, because it's like, I don't know this person, and it's a mass email, right? So, and think about the modern reader. How many authors' newsletters are they on? Because everybody's offering a cookie, right? We've been doing this for 5 years now. So the modern reader has a ton of email that they're sifting through. They don't remember the cookie they signed up for 9 months before. They just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Russell Blake's list, and the only time he emails out and the only time I get an email from him is when he's dropping the next book. Oh, by the way, the next book's out. And it's just like a random email. And so his last one was a brand new series. So there was no anticipation. It's just, so he's got a new book out. I might go check it out at some point.
Anticipation's kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
right?
It's everything.
Have a chance to anticipate it. One of the things that this may put you on the spot a little bit, so we'll see. But I know that we were talking about how could we adapt it to basically, I don't know, like tell people where people are in your reading order. Like if you have a larger catalog, or do re-engagement on individual books. So for instance, if somebody read through a 3rd book in a series and didn't get to the 4th, maybe there's a way to do that. Have you thought any more about that? Like what people might do to like the specific challenges that we have with multiple series, multiple books in a series, and sort of maximizing that customer relationship, getting them the books that they want, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, you're fighting against what Amazon and whoever allow you to do inside of the books, right? So the only thing you've really got to work with is at the end of the book. What do you call that? The back matter.
Yeah.
You can get people to click on a link that then goes somewhere, right? So you can entice them to click that link to go somewhere else, and that link you can encode. You can fire a tag in your system that then tells you that they've consumed that book and they've finished it and they're at the end of it. So based on that, you can then create some more crazy logic inside of your email software that does stuff based on that action.
If you're, just to put this together for people who are kind of new to autoresponders, we've talked about a few different things here. So first of all, we've talked about broadcast, which when we were talking about how often to email and the last chance email. Okay, those were discussions about broadcasts that just go out once at a certain time and everybody gets it, more or less. And then the traditional style autoresponder, which is email 1, wait a few days, email 2, and those are the open loops and the stories. But what Andre's talking about now is sort of like more advanced logic. If somebody clicks a link, they may get different emails or a different action may occur and things branch. And so that's
the kind that makes Dave's head bleed.
Yeah, you plan that stuff out ahead of time. It's if this, then that.
Yeah.
So like for us, if we were able to get a really good string of emails that identified that somebody really likes what we call action science fiction, like they read Invasion, they loved Invasion, and we've determined through some sequence that they don't really care about anything else, then we want to make sure that they're routed to the Tomorrow Gene, that sort of thing, because that's the similar style of book. But you need to know where everybody's going before you even begin working it out. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the next episode too.
Yeah, you can get brain damage just thinking of it. But, Active Campaign and Drip and those systems, they actually, once you figured out the logic around it and you put it inside there, then it just works. It becomes a little black box that just works. And so then you can start rotating people around your various books, the genres of books or whatever. But that's the only way I think it can be done, or certainly that's a good way of doing it, because that they've got to the end and they've finished that book. However you decide to bribe them, obviously you want as many people that have finished that book to click the link at the end. Not everybody will, but you want that percentage to be as high as possible. It'll be nice one day when Amazon have an API that can fire when somebody gets 90% into a book, and that can fire into your own system, and then that'll be magic, right? Because then you can get 100% of people.
Right. Well, that's kind of, Kobo does some of that. I don't think they share it on a person by person basis, because that's like a privacy issue. But their readers know when somebody's reaching the end, and then Mark was telling us this on one of these shows that they like add something in. It's a whole thing. But before we go, Jackie was asking about platforms. So what did you switch to, Andre?
Yeah, we just got on to Active Campaign, and you're like, see you later, bitches. I'm on to something better. So what are you on now, and what's the difference?
I'm on Drip. They're both very, very similar. It's just there's one thing I hate with Active Campaign ever since I first joined, and it's just never got better, is the email editor. I just don't like the way the way it works.
It's a little wonky.
Yeah, it makes it very difficult for me to get emails inside there. Whereas the Drip one is just super easy. I can just go straight from Ulysses or any app that I'm using and just literally just paste it into the window, and then just add all the bolding and italics and links, and it's perfect because it wraps it inside of a template that I've already created. It just doesn't work very well with Active Campaign, at least the way that I work. So
wow,
that was
Dave's
the biggest
all
reason.
stewing over here. Look at Dave's face.
I hate that. This is why I hate doing the emails. I want to be able to cut and paste what I wrote in Scrivener into Active Campaign and have my links preserved, have my italics preserved. None of this preserved. I got to go in, do the whole damn thing, and do it again. And it sucks.
Yeah, but so much of that, Dave, you should be tagging those links and stuff too. That's the thing. Christine says, Dave, you're using it wrong. We used to use Weber, which was generally considered to be like the market standard. We moved to Active Campaign, which I like 5 million times better. And a lot of people say like they'll use MailChimp or MailerLite or something. I think the trick about those is they're free for a while, but then as they escalate, you quickly end up paying more. And for
set up for success for sure.
Yeah, MailChimp and Aweber, they're both dinosaurs, and they're all list based. Like a flat tagging structure like Aweber's got. I mean, not Aweber, Active Campaign and Drip. And those ones, it's just so much better. You can do so much more with it. There's no lists.
Right. So basically, Active Campaign is just a database. Like somebody either is in your database or is not in your database. And then you use a tag system. Yeah. So if we have like nonfiction books and fiction books, we might tag them accordingly. Right. But it's still like one master list. I mean, you can make separate lists, but
yeah, and then you can target people based on those tags. If they have these tags and they don't have these tags, then they receive this email.
And that's a good way to do like one of the difficulties, especially if you have books that are on KDP Select, if you're Amazon exclusive for some books but not all books, if you set it up where when the person clicks on an Amazon link, you pretty much know that they are an Amazon customer, and then you don't want to send, hey, I got this book on Amazon to all your Apple and Kobo people, because you're going to piss them off because they won't be able to read it for 90 days.
Yeah.
Right. We had problems when we were with AWeber of like doing actions or sorting across lists. So we'd say,
yeah, it's a nightmare.
You can't do it. You say somebody's on, I want to look at the CI lists, the Realm and Sands lists, and I want to know anybody in there who meets some criteria. You can't do it. You need to do it by list, and then you're sending emails to duplicate people. We like ActiveCampaign a lot. It's a very robust series of like actions, if then logic.
Yeah.
I'll just give, we have a email essentials kit that Christine did for us, and it's at sterlingandstone.net/email essentials. And our link for ActiveCampaign is on there. It's an affiliate link. And it's, they're $9 a month, but they have a 14-day free trial. I would say it's worth it getting in there and poking around. You'll also see Andre's autoresponder madness in there if you want to be a real ninja. Sean says, hands down the best info product I've ever bought. And who doesn't have a favorite info product ready like this?
I will say it's the only info product that I know of that I was like, okay, that's a useful product. That's freaking cool. And
I love autoresponder madness. I feel like I feel like the stuff that we could have built if I just said, okay, like that, I just want to sell shit online. That's what I want to do. But I learned ARM right before I went into fiction and started making peanuts, selling $3 books. But it's such a beautiful way of constructing emails that it works for $3 books. It works for relationships. It works for $2,000 courses. It works for whatever you're trying to sell, because it's about being a good human.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's fun.
It's fun. Yeah. I've also really liked having you on, Andre, because we got to watch the sun totally set behind you. That was so magical.
Yeah, the lights are on there.
That was really cool.
Oh, don't mind me. I'm just hanging out in Spain watching the sunset. So sterlingandstone.net/email essentials. Check that out. Get the free email essentials sheet. Anything you want people to know about Andre?
No, not really, but
he's an international man of intrigue,
of mystery.
Andre is going to write an amazing thriller one day, y'all. It's gonna happen.
Yes.
So anyway, if those of you who are alive, we're gonna do a different thing of email, and on the next episode, like if you're not listening live, it'll be next week, and just getting in on some of these things, because I know this is kind of an overwhelming topic. We want to drill down.
But it's also a topic that everybody needs to know.
Everybody needs.
It's
one of those essential tools that you need to have going. If you're not doing it, you're not doing it right. So thank you so much for being on, Andre. It's always a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you again in person. Are you going to be joining us again soon? It's I never know when you're coming across the pond.
I kind of save going over the pond to once a year. So I'll certainly see you guys next year, but whether I'm going to come back this year, I don't know.
It's too late this year. Just promise next year.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do something. We'll make sure so we have something awesome going on.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for listening, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.